Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Matt and I are not cuddling up today. Unfortunately, we are remote. Matt is back in the Dovetail offices. Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Class 700/0 live stream. We are really excited to be able to bring this to you tonight. Matt, how are things going? How are you this evening?
I'm very good. It's weather's been nice, so nice ride in the car earlier. So I'm all ready to sit down and drive some trains.
Brilliant, and we have a special guest on tonight, actually, and we're gonna introduce James to you all now. Some of you might recognise him from some of his previous work on creating some videos. But James is our product marketing coordinator, and you might have read some of his articles when we've been talking about the Class 700 in some of our roadmap articles. So he's been writing all of those, and we thought, you know what, we'd love to be able to get somebody in here who is really down in the detail and be able to give you a little bit of an insight onto kind of how everything's put together, how the timetables are put together, and basically the walking encyclopedia of all things Class 700. So welcome, James. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Hello, everyone. Yes, glad to be here. Only in sort of a random ethereal voice today, but here nonetheless.
Absolutely, and we only need to be a random disembodied voice for tonight. Don't worry, we kill the face cams after the first sort of 2 or 3 minutes anyway, so no need to apologise. So before we get into things, don't worry, guys, it's admin time. So it is, yeah, I know, Matt, get excited, woohoo! It is, we are releasing this on the 11th of July, so that is next Tuesday. Obviously this is your first kind of chance to see it in action over a prolonged period of time. It'll be £12.99 or €15.99 or $16.99, depending on which locale you're in. We have written a couple of articles detailing some information and some nice screenshots and all of that kind of jazz, and the walk around video on the recent roadmap articles. There's also the manual on there as well. So if you want to get to grips with the Class 700 before we release it, then the manual is there and available for you to read right now, which is great. And James actually wrote the manual. So again, we've got the right person on the live stream for you tonight as well. So tonight we're going to be showcasing a little bit of what it has to offer. So we're going to be doing a fairly lengthy service for you. We're going to be doing the introduction to one of the scenarios. There are 7 that come with the Class 700, and we are going to be doing a short service where we're going to be taking it on to Cross City 2 to show you off some of the AC functionality of the Loco 2. Should we get going, Matt?
Let's get going, shall we? Right.
Let's do
Excuse
it.
me. Let's look at Southeastern. Should we start looking at scenarios?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, scenarios. So we have, and they've all got this, that you can tell where these are because they've all got Desiro City in the name. So do you want to just talk us through the scenarios, James?
Yeah, sure. So the order that I have them in might not be the same, so I'll just list them out as best I can. So Desiro City on test was inspired by the very first one that was ever sent down to Medway. It was sent in the middle of the night, empty move, just to test to see if it could run down here before the Thameslink service started down here. which is that's a nice little thing to have. Desiro City Shattered, and this is one of my favourites because it involves the rare instance where two 700s can be coupled up together in a rescue scenario. So one's failed and you've got to drag it away. Nice, something nice, a bit different there. Shortened, Desiro City Shortened. It's a reduced service that terminates at Stroud because of engineering works. So that's got a bit of unique turning round at Stroud, where you have a tiny little bit of Medway Valley action to turn around, which is something that makes me very happy. Desiro City Delays. There's freight trains everywhere, signals just causing havoc. So you've just got to do the best you can to get through and make your way towards the Medway towns. Desiro City Changeover. This time it's the weather against you, so you've got to get your train to Gravesend, but then you've probably got to turn tail and head back again. Desiro City Showers. First thing in the morning, it's ready to start the day, so that is a simple run which just takes you out of Gillingham Depot and out to Rainham ready to start. A long day of Desiro City action ahead. And then Desiro City Skip. It's winter, there's problems everywhere, and you're probably not going to be stopping at every station like you're used to.
Oh, tantalising, James. And I should highlight, obviously, we've got a few more scenarios on here than we would have with the Class 700, but obviously the Class 700 gives you 7, and they are all the ones that start with Desiro City. So that is your clue. So they sound really interesting, some good gameplay dynamics there, some ways to kind of perhaps interact with the route that perhaps you wouldn't have done normally. So that's good. We'll be showcasing one of those for you a little bit later on. We're going to be showing Desiro City Shattered just at the start of that one. But what we're going to do is we're going to be spawning on foot. We're going to be spawning on foot at Dartford at about 6:25 in early November. I mean, it's middle of summer here, but we'll go for early November, and slightly cloudy. So
I'm just having a pan down the service mode, and so you can see there's all the 9 Class 9 services, which are the ones to Rainham, all in there, plus some other moves as well. So lots of services. How many services was it, James?
I think the total is 83.
There you go.
Some of them are combined empty stock and in-service moves. So yeah, it works out at about 83 services, which is 2 trains an hour in each direction.
So you can see the average here. They're all hitting around the 45-minute mark. So decent runs as well. Right, so we are spawning on foot at Dartford.
Dartford.
At 06:25.
Nice sunrise.
And we want, what weather do we want? Early November.
Sure, 15th of November sounds fine.
And what weather do we want? Slightly cloudy.
Let's go. Yeah, slightly cloudy. Cool. So obviously this will run on Southeastern high speed. We'll come on to a little bit more about London commuter and other bits and pieces as we go through the stream. But here we go. We are at Dartford.
And there's no 700 anywhere. Where on earth could it possibly be? Which reminds me of all the teasers I did where we never actually showed the 700. It was quite fun, actually.
Matt, people saying Mike. I mean, who needs to hear me? But apparently the mic's quite quiet.
Sorry? JD's very quiet. James and Matt are very loud.
Yes.
Interesting.
Which is obviously the worst way to go about this whole situation. Yep, we're waiting around. What could we be waiting for?
Wow, I think there it is.
Dun, dun, dun.
Nice little detail over the screens, say check station screens, which is something 700 can do quite often, and you'll see that popping up every now and then.
Oh, I like the little entrance that we did there. We should do that for all of our preview streams.
So you want me to take
People
this
are
one
asking
over?
if we can turn the volume down on the game audio down if possible.
Let me try it there first, and we'll see if we need to adjust it again.
You'll notice there the cab doors paused for a second, and that's realistic. It has a 2-step animation, as per the real train, where it opens a little bit and then you pull it the rest of the way open.
Right, so we're in the cab. What do we want to talk about in the cab, folks? James, I know we've got a little bit that we can talk about as we go through the route itself, but what are the kind of defining features as you go into the Class 700 that you can see as soon as you get in?
The best bit about it is the nice big windscreen. You can see everything without having a letterbox in front of you to view it, which is very nice. The other immediately obvious thing compared to most trains is screens everywhere. The speedometer and AWS are on the screen in front of you on the DMI, driver machine interface. It's an interesting name for a screen, but there we go. And then the screen to the left of that is the TMS, train management system. And there is some interactivity in there, which is nice. You can turn on the air conditioning in the cab. You can view your train formation. So it's a nice little detail that has been put in. And you can obviously watch all the attractive effort and braking characteristics on there as well. There is only one physical brake gauge on the right-hand side, and that is for your air brakes. And that's to the right-hand side of the central screen.
What one am I looking
But
for?
it's the brake gauge is the only actual dial.
That one there. It's the only steam gauge.
Yeah. And everything else is just snappy and clicky. I think it's the best way to, there's no big clunky levers that you've got to grab both hands and leverage it across. It's all just, that snaps that way, that snaps that way.
Thoroughly modern train.
Yeah, to say this, they entered service in 2016. It's about as new as you can get.
A couple people asking about announcements.
So there aren't passenger announcements, but what we do have is the PIS, the digital inside the passenger area. So you don't hear it, but you can see it read out the full LCD display, showing off all the destinations.
We'll show that a little bit later. I'm really excited by this because this is my local train as well. So I recognise all of this stuff, which is good. I don't normally, when we come onto a preview stream, I'm finding it a little bit alien. But this is my home territory. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's nice to see, and ever since Southeastern High Speed was a thing in TSW2, this was my little dream that this would come out and sort of complete the experience. It's taken us a few years, but we got there. It's nice to finally have it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons actually why we've done it in this this time of day is because we wanted to be able to show off all of the functionalities and all the lights and all that kind of stuff on the within the cab. Obviously, this isn't necessarily a preview for Southeastern High Speed. It's more of a preview for the loco. So we wanted to try and make sure that you could see the loco in a few different scenarios.
Yeah, so on the screens on the front, you do have different brightness settings, day-night settings, stuff like that. Not the usual day-night settings that you might be used to on other trains, where it's like light mode, dark mode. It changes between like a darker blue and a lighter blue, which is a bit easier on the eyes.
It's like a light mode and a dark mode, essentially, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, it is. Just the screen doesn't change contrast completely. Yeah, you can also tell as well with the headlights. It's a good way to show off the headlights, because most trains in the UK have got a main headlight, a marker light, and a top marker light. The 700 is very different in that respect, where both headlights are on both sides at the same time. And it's just a nice way to see that, and they are... If you've ever stood and you've seen a 700 coming in the distance, you know what it's like to look at those retina burners. It's good fun.
It always reminds me a little bit of, if anybody's watched Blubber, a little bit like Weibo. No? Just me?
Lost me there.
Okay, fine. In the chat, anyone in the chat, Please save me. Save me. Okay. So Matt, can we do a horn? I know it's early in the morning and we wake a lot of people up. Can we do a horn, please?
Go inside and outside horns.
It's quite interesting. They've got very soft horns because a lot of older trains they've got very loud horns, but 700s are quite soft, probably because they're designed to run through all these places at 3 in the morning. It also does have the depot horn, which is very nice. The button for that is on the left-hand side of the cab, and it's unlike other trains that've got a depot whistle. It's just like a little high-pitched beep beep, which I like. I saw someone mention about the DRA. It does, in fact, if you set the DRA and reset it, it does say the text. Maybe we can do that when we stop, so we can hear what it has to say. And then if you've got the safety systems as well, it will say TPWS and ODRS operational.
Yeah, it did that as we started. I'll switch them off and on again because JD was talking when I turned them on. So.
Sorry, everybody. I'll just sit in the corner quietly. If you request for the full functionality of the TMS and the GSMR as well, so got a few things to look through. I think when we've stopped.
We do have plenty of opportunities to stop as well because these services are all stops to Rainham.
Driver, you have reset
so there's plenty of time to look at this stuff.
Please check the signal. Driver, you have reset the DRA. Please check the signal.
TPWS and AWS operational.
It started raining.
Some nice comment. Some people like that in the chat. These poor schmucks getting wet.
It's about typical for a commute through Medway first thing in the morning.
Feels about right, yeah.
Amount of times we just walk in drenched.
For those people asking about the internal PIS, yeah, of course we're going to show that a little bit later on. We want to save some stuff for later on in the stream, everybody. We've got a few stations to get through yet.
Everyone's just super excited, as they should be.
Oh, it's brilliant! Loads of people in the chat getting really interested, really excited. Lots of requests, all good. We love this kind of thing. So don't worry, we are reading the chat. If we don't get to your request or your questions straight away, we will try and cover as much as we can over the course of the next hour and a half or so, something like that. Hence, we're not going to do a 10 in 10 for this one. We'll hopefully be able to show everything that we want to be able to show in the course of this stream. We normally save the 10 in 10s for things that are perhaps a little bit more, they've got bits and pieces that we probably aren't able to show during an actual live stream itself, whereas with this we can probably cover most of the stuff.
Someone else can see the pantograph. Even though it's down at the moment, it is an interesting little quirk where the pantograph light that shines on the pantograph is illuminated even when you're in DC mode.
Well, it's worth showing that, isn't it? Yeah, go and have a look at that, because they have a little camera pointing at the pantographs, don't they?
Yeah, usually for diagnostic reasons. So if you hear a bang, you can see what's actually gone wrong. But in this case, it is illuminated even when you're in DC mode.
Looks safe.
Where is it? There it is.
A bit further down. There it is. So yeah, that's the light.
Cameras, and that's the light.
And yes, we will see it with its pantograph up a bit later on. Well, pantographs, because on both halves of the unit, the pantograph goes up.
Oh, I love that PIS.
It's one of the best little details. And it is based on the most
V1.
recent software as well. The software on the 700s themselves was changed, I think in April, May last year, which changed the next few stations and how that looks visually. Surprised me the first time I saw it, but that's how it's been represented as the most modern software that's on board the real thing.
Yeah, and again, because I have the benefit of being able to go on these when I head into London or anything like that. These are like this is what I see, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we've recreated it. I'm so happy. Nigel asks, is £12.99 the pre-order price? We don't have pre-order for this. It is coming out on Tuesday, and £12.99 will be the price in pounds. Ego Drio asks, is the GSMR the same as on the 323?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, functionality hasn't changed there.
So you can see the panoramic, like obviously there are a few trains that we've got in TSW that are very, the visibility window is very, very small, but the kind of the panoramic view of this, hey, there we go.
Nice.
But the panoramic view you can really see, can't you? You've kind of got, you can see everything that you need to see.
Yeah, because even with the Class 395 that comes with South Eastern High Speed, it's got the same sort of window, but because the nose is slanted, you can't see as much. The most important thing in front of you is the TVM display, but in this, it's all cut out, so all you can see is just track, and it's a nice perspective to view routes from.
Absolutely. Alex asked, what is the route shown? We're on South Eastern High Speed, which is the kind of the home route for the 700. So this is the 700 Zero, isn't it? This is the coming out of nowhere. I was trying to stay quiet when we passed the train, but this is the 700 Zero. This is the 8-car variant. I'm correct, right?
Yeah, it's the reduced length unit, and you can see that on the stickers all throughout the cab to remind drivers how long their train is, because otherwise you don't want to make that mistake. But yeah, this is the RLU, as it is known.
Yeah. As I say, this is housed on South Eastern High Speed, but if players want to take it onto pretty much any of the other routes in game, they can do, because this has got AC functionality as well. So you can pick it up and put it on wherever you want to, really.
Yeah, and as we'll hear later, it's AC functionality with AC sounds. So
Yes.
that is and AC physics as well. It will pick up a lot of speed much quicker than it does on DC.
Yeah.
So all of those differences are in.
Yeah. Nicky Mouse says, no raindrops and windows. Yeah, there are.
They're a bit hard to see, but I was thinking that myself earlier on, but no, they are definitely there. It's just a bit hard to see them.
Yeah. Alex, there won't be timetable options on London Commuter. We'll talk about that now, actually. London Commuter, we've obviously had quite a few questions about the viability of including it on the route as it currently is. We talked about this in the roadmap stream on Tuesday, but in terms of the current sort of health of London Commuter, we're seeing a few players still having performance issues and crashing issues on London Commuter. So it's not something that we can kind of feasibly at the moment put something else onto in order to kind of make that problem and probably exacerbate it even more. So we wanted to make the 700, and the kind of the work required to change and optimise London Commuter is pretty significant. So we wanted to make sure that it was available, and therefore we made it for Southeastern instead. So there's no current plans to implement a timetable onto London Commuter.
I think what's also not insignificant, even once all that's done, is the timetable itself. Poor Joe, that would have to try and squeeze the 700 in. It's no mean feat.
Very true.
No, that would be quite. One of the part of the problem, I was explaining this on the forum, is that with 4,500 services of London Brighton, that actually becomes a bit of an Achilles heel when it comes to adding more services, because this has got nowhere near 4,500 services on it. So it makes it exponentially harder, and it means that you're into, you know, almost a day waiting for it to simulate. Sometimes it's difficult. That doesn't mean we're not going to potentially look at it in the future, but there's no plans to, because yeah, it's difficult. It's a big number of series of problems there, and doing it this way means we get the benefit of enjoying the 700 today.
Absolutely. Do we have the cab light stuck on? Is the cab light still on?
I haven't quite worked out. I've got a. Oh no, here we go.
There's
There
That's
we
it.
go.
I got it off. I haven't quite work. There's two on-off toggles there.
yeah, it has 3 total cab lights. They're all, you can all turn them on and off separately, so it can be quite a light show inside of the 700 cab.
Absolutely. Interi's asked, will it come out at midnight on the 11th? Kind of how we roll with rolling out our add-ons now is that generally consoles will be sort of around 10 o'clock UK time in the morning, and then Steam and Epic will be slightly later on in the afternoon. But they're a bit more of a manual process, so we don't like to give an exact time just in case it goes past that time by a couple of minutes, and then we certainly hear about it. But it will be sort of around between sort of 4 and 6 p.m. With on those platforms. So those are the kind of times you need to be looking at on Tuesday the 11th.
I know one person just said, are the coaches different? And yeah, there are quite a few differences between each of the coaches. As you can see, the visual differences in terms of one's got a pantograph, they've got different types of bogey equipment, the motors are in different places. But even from a physics perspective, the coaches break differently compared
it's crazy.
to each other.
I was talking to James, who does the simulgraph, and it's like you can get documentation, or he's been able to get documentation about like braking curves and so forth. But then when you actually look at it, there's bits of documentation saying there's one coach in particular is so light, it has to brake well outside the normal curves. I can't remember which way round. Less, I think, so that it doesn't slip. And it's like, well, every coach seems to have different braking characteristics, and yeah, that ain't documented. So it's really, really interesting training. I don't know if you necessarily feel that when you're driving, but there's crazy simulation going on trying to capture some of this behaviour.
I think what you do feel is that the braking can be pretty strong because the train is so light. I think it doesn't have as much momentum as other trains do, and it's quite powerful in terms of its dynamic braking. So you can fly into a station. If you go, oh no, forgot to brake, you might be able to make it. In something like a 465, you'd have no chance.
Yeah, I've been stopping quite early, just in this run, in case anyone hasn't noticed. So it's it's a very drivable train. It has to be said. It's quite controllable.
Should we talk timetable? Because we talked a little bit about the amount of services that will be available for players. About 83, I think we said, wasn't it, James?
Yeah.
But we are in a position where we talked about kind of performance on London Commuter. When we've gone through testing with the new kind of services on the line and all the other kind of bits and pieces that are now on Southeastern, I think there's about 40 layers now onto Southeastern in various different formats. We're finding that there have been some reports of particularly consoles like the Series S, for instance, that perhaps have had a little bit of problem with crashing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be offering 2 timetables, the second of which will come a little bit after release, but that will be a kind of what we're calling we've got our full fat timetable, which is everything, and if you've got all the layers installed and everything like that, you'll get everything. And then there's a slightly, are we going to call it semi-skimmed, maybe? Semi-skimmed timetable where we'll be trimming off a few of the, what we are going to say is kind of less important layers, so sort of static stock, things that you might only see seasonally or very, very rarely on the route, but take up quite a lot of memory. And we'll be releasing that soon after the Class 700 comes out, for people that perhaps are having, if they do experience any problems, they can use that option if they need to, in order to enjoy the route. But we feel like it's not going to be a particularly widespread issue. We think it's probably something that if you've got a lot of layers installed and you've got a lot of routes downloaded, then it might be that you have a few a couple of crashes here and there. But as I say, we're working on an updated timetable for that. If people do experience problems, some of the ones that they might want to think about removing in terms of layers, if you can uninstall them, not uninstall them, but unselect them. Midland Main Line because of the HSTs, Edinburgh Glasgow's 385s, LGV's TGV, and Colnarken for the ICE. So if you're looking at ones that might save you a bit of memory, those are the ones. If you want to play it on day one and you are having problems, those are the ones to go to.
And now we wait for the people who say 385 on South Eastern High Speed. And then I get to tell a story. It's all good.
Go for the story. Go for it.
Well, the 385s, they're built by Hitachi, which is the same manufacturer that built the Class 395, and in their process of being built, tested, and prior to entering service, one did spend a little bit of time at Ashford Depot.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
That is simple as that little thing. It's one of those things when Joe's making a timetable, I send him a photo and he's like, "Oh, fine, I'll put it in." It's
so it's your fault.
Yeah, it's always my fault. It's always my fault.
I mean, Aaron says the issues are on console, so I put the additional timetable onto PC. Well, some people haven't got. Some people's PCs aren't as brilliant. So some people might still have issues. As I say, it's your choice. You can choose whichever one you want to. The idea is that the journey modes chapters will be the reduced timetable though. You shouldn't see too much of an impact. Action Taken says, can you show us how to input the destinations on the front of the train? Is that something
they're
we can
automatic.
manually change, or is it automatic?
No, they're all automatic, same as normal.
Yeah, okay. Stephen
Yeah,
Keen,
so-
this might be a question for you, James. What is the maximum speed of the 700?
So they are limited to 100 miles an hour. That's on both DC and AC. Although anywhere they run on DC, the speed limit doesn't go up that high anyway. But yeah, they're limited to 100 miles an hour because they're modern trains. I think when they tested these, they did it with the limiter off, and it went up quite a bit faster than that. But the current draw on the network was just absolutely insane. So it's like limit it to 100, and then problem solved. But 100 miles an hour with this view is something a bit different. Not that I advocate speeding through the midway towns, obviously, but I'm not in control of any of you.
We've seen your videos.
Some people will be giving it a go, I would imagine.
Surprised no one's asked me to drift it yet.
We know they have. I've seen you talking about it. Someone asked, sorry, it's gone off the top of my screen now, but whether there are plans to go pass over London Brighton. There aren't at the moment, no. We're looking at doing a pass over Munich first, actually, because that one is the big thing holding up TSG's 420. But we've got a handle on some other places where that might be having a problem. So, and we've got some ideas about London Commuter as well. So, you know, there has been some investigation to it, but I'm not going to say that we are if we're not. No, we're not at the moment.
SimWorld Life has asked, is the timetable completely rebuilt running the Class 700 services? So we did do an update to the to Southeastern a couple of weeks ago, where we added some more services in from different players. But in terms of the Class 700 update, it adds in about 83 services, and it won't change the existing timetable that you will have in game right now.
Yeah, it was rebuilt for TSW3, the timetable, and it was rebuilt with the 700 in mind. So it's filling gaps that have been there, waiting for it eagerly. I've seen a few people mention stuff like ERTMS and ATO. Those are systems which are only used in the Thameslink core between St Pancras and Blackfriars. Not having that section, there would be no use for those systems anywhere you could drive the 700. It would just moan at you.
A couple of people ask about the stop markers. Yeah, we obviously mentioned in this month's roadmap that the stop markers they weren't able to come in with this particular release, but they are something that we're planning to implement. We don't have a date for them just yet, but we'll be keeping you updated. Now we're getting some requests for flyby shots.
Oh, they come up just as I'm approaching a platform. I see your game.
Ah, that was my opportunity to get you to Nebworth, and you got wise to it.
Of all the stations as well, Rainham is the... I mean, I've been driving this for weeks, obviously, because of course I have. I still can't stop at Rainham properly. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't
Because you've been
do
going
it.
so fast, and you're sitting there going, oh, when do I stop? And of course you've been sitting there doing 70 miles an hour for ages, and yeah, then suddenly you're having to stop, and it's like, oh, yeah, how do you do that again?
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's just conditioned for driving the 395 through here so many times,
Yeah.
just blasting straight through.
Yeah, that's sort of testament to the power of the brakes on this thing. The fact that I just stopped there, all right. Choosing, all of the brakes to do it, but
Yeah, well, I think that also shows as well, it's pretty good at staying on its own 2 feet, really. It doesn't slip and slide out of control. Even with powerful braking, you tend to keep control of it. So if trains were ever to have difficulty sliders, this is a pretty easy train to drive. It's the best little bit of software ever. Those boards, I love it.
I remember when it got showed to us in, I think it was in a Teams chat of some description, and I think everyone was just like, "Oh my god!" We're all very interested and excited about that one.
Rain's really picking up now.
it's Medway.
I like the reflection on the platform. I enjoyed the light refracting off of it.
I also quite like how the light interacts with the 700 itself in these conditions as well. You can see how the train looks just a little bit extra shiny. Maybe not at this angle, but it's such a nice little mood when it's pouring with rain. You got a train. I like it.
Yeah, when you need to get out.
Cough, wipers, cough.
What? No, wipers are supposed to be on in the tunnels.
Oh, we've got a backseat driver tonight. I'm not normally this harsh on Matt, but James, feel free to call him up.
No, I'm leaving the wipers on
well.
intentionally because I know it drives some of you crazy.
We should build in an annoying squeak if you leave it on.
Well, funny you should say that. When we originally were writing the very, very, putting rain in the game in the first place, I did talk about with the engineer who was doing it, about adding a squeak factor, so that the windows could dry, and if you ran the dry wipers, you would get a squeak, but never happened, sadly.
Ellie Pro asked, will the 700 come with AC? Yes, it will. We'll show that a little bit later. Dan says, can we go next to the bogey for the run sounds, please? Is that wise doing that in a tunnel, or should we wait until... Oh, we're out of the tunnel now.
And now we're back in the tunnel.
Now we're back in the tunnel. Great.
That was the bomb hole.
I chose the wrong time to ask that question.
And yes, you heard correctly. It is called the bomb hole. Be careful how you say it, but it is.
Wow,
That is what it's called. I've lost count how many times I've told the story of the tunnel and the reason why that hole's there in the first place. But it's interesting naming.
Well, I can only assume it had something to do with the bomb, but
Well, it was intentionally put in because it used to be a single tunnel, and it used to be a canal tunnel, not a railway tunnel. And they built the railway down one half of it on struts, with the canal on the other side. They did that and then realised there's nowhere for the boats to pass each other. So in the middle, they blew it up and put a passing place in for the canal boats.
nice. So this is why we've got James on the stream. He's the only one who can tell us these kinds of stories. So
Yeah, I remember as well. And I've never seen anyone do it, but it's a nice little challenge if you just really want to have a bad time. Before 2004, this tunnel had a 15 mph speed limit. The whole thing. Because it wasn't lined. It didn't even have like a brick portal entrance, I don't think. And there were reports of it starting to collapse on the inside, so trains had to crawl through. And if anyone travelled out of Strood or Higham back in those days, you remember the pain. But they shut the tunnel for exactly 1 year to fix it. And now we get to go through at 70.
all 32.
Until if you went through at 70 now, Strood would know about it.
They probably wouldn't. You'd probably carry on going straight once you come out. Miss Strood altogether.
just faceplant the submarine in the Medway.
Yeah.
Couple of questions. Nigel asked, will this work on Xbox One? I saw a question about PS4 as well. Yep, should be fine. As I said, we are, if anybody does have any problems, we are putting a kind of a secondary timetable live if that should come soon after release. So it should be fine. With the testing that we've implemented so far implies that it's only if you've got loads and loads and loads of stuff downloaded that it's a problem. But again, Matt, you're probably better placed to be able to say how severe that we think the problem might be.
It's not come up huge amounts in. It's just some of the beta testers, or one or two of them, reported some issues. So we're taking action to get it resolved. The changes have been done. They just haven't made it through QA yet to make sure that they're stable before we put it out. But yeah, it's kind of like it should be fine for the majority of players, vast majority of players, but just in case, we're just making sure that there's a good option there so that you can enjoy the actual meat of the timetable without, these minor trivial trains, which actually have got quite big memory footprints, disrupting the whole thing.
Yeah, and someone just asked about GWE on Xbox. Well, I know we're not talking about GWE today, but we are chatting to Microsoft about that at the moment. We haven't heard anything back as of yet, but as soon as we do, we'll let everybody know.
Just love how busy it is with the 395 coming in. That's another reason why I picked the morning, really, because it's just such a hive of extra activity.
It's really coming down now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm making other trains delayed. This is what I do.
The ultimate troll on the rails.
Should make a scenario where everything's running really slow, and the reason is because Matt's in front of you.
That should be a tannoy announcement in real life, shouldn't
I
it?
apologise for the delay on this service. You know who's in front.
Yeah. You can see the pink headphones from here.
Proper thundering now.
Very uniform door closing animations these things have, because they're brand new. It's not like the 465 where it's like slam slam, or some of the really old tube stock. Even the 2009 tube stock, the doors don't work anymore. They close at different times, but in these they just snap shut.
Theo says it's very realistic to be honest, a Thameslink being delayed. Won't comment.
It's quite
now
difficult
we
to
get
wheel
the-
slip these things, Laserjet, because they've got quite advanced protection on them. I've certainly not been able to wheel slip it, but it's because again there's quite the simulation's got separate wheel slip protection running on every vehicle that's got power car on it.
Just a cathedral in the background there. Or castle, even watch the castle.
Rochester
Yes,
Castle.
we now get the joy of crawling through Medway.
Next stop Chatham. Say hello to Dovetail HQ.
Next up, Rochester.
Oh yeah, I mean after Rochester. Sorry.
Not there. We're not there yet. And then haste through Gillingham as much as we can.
Arpalos, does it have panto flashes? No further
That was a nice lightning bolt. I don't immediately know the answer to that question. I don't know if Matt knows.
What's the question? Sorry.
panto flashes, third rail, shoe flashing.
I
Third rail
believe so.
flash.
I must admit I've not seen it myself yet because I've not tried it, but I did ask the beta testers to certainly check the DC, and it was there. So I'll go and do some more testing and or talk to people that did the testing and make sure. Certainly should be though.
So how many notches does the train have? If you mean the combined power brake controller, it's a pretty smooth action rather than having actual notches. I think the only real notch is the emergency notch.
And the central.
And the central, yes, of course. It'd be a nightmare to get in the middle otherwise.
Nacho Cheese Boy 20 asks, will livery designer work with this Class 700? Yes, we're looking forward to seeing some really cool liveries for everyone just after release. I think all people have no umbrellas. Should we talk audio? Because obviously there's a few people in the chat talking about it. We had some stuff mentioned when we did the walk around video. It'd be good to kind of talk about where we source the sounds from and from kind of the rationale that we've chosen to kind of source some of these sounds from. So Matt, you talked about it in the roadmap stream, but can you give us a little bit more, kind of tell the story again around it?
Yeah, so there's a range of different sounds from different places. The reality is, unfortunately, you're not always able to get to do the recordings where we want to be able to. We had a visit initially to the Thameslink training facility where they've got the simulator for 700, and we got a range of recordings from the train there, from the internal, just as much as you can get from a sort of a cab simulator, really. And the team also got the chance to then, have a look at the displays and the controls. And actually, it's quite a good place where you can get more of a feel for how the train works, because it's not a real train, obviously. They quite reasonably give us a lot more freedom to mess about with the simulator than not with the real trains. So we got a first pass of recordings for internals and statics, aircon sounds, all that stuff from there. Then we got the opportunity to go and do recordings from an actual 700, but it was only static again. It wasn't able to be get moving recordings. The difference is static recordings you can do from a train while it's turning around, essentially, and you just carry microphones and you record the stuff, whereas running sounds you've got to attach microphones to the exterior of the train, and there's all sorts of safety concerns that they have to manage about that, particularly with third rail stuff. So that's a lot more difficult these days than it has been in the past. So we spoke to our friends at Armstrong Powerhouse to see what they could help us with, and we were able to get the AC sounds only from Armstrong. We weren't able to get the DC sounds. So the AC sound set is the set from Armstrong. And then that left us with the DC set to sort of resolve. And we were able to, working with Daisy, who was able to record the 350 to get the sounds for that for us. So it's a mixed bag of sounds. The 350 is another Desiro unit, just like this one. So it's the same setup. So yeah, big thank you to Daisy for helping us out there. And that kind of gives you the sort of the mix and match of where all the sounds have come from in different places. Yeah, it's obviously it's always better to get the sounds from the train you can, but you've got to work with what you can get, I'm afraid. And essentially that would have potentially meant not doing a 700 otherwise. Because it wasn't simply a timing question about that, it was just, no, it's not going to happen.
Right, there's quite a few questions while you were going through that, Matt. Let me just quickly see if we're going to hear AC next. We're going to do an off the rails to finish. We're just going to do a quick when we get to which station are we going to on this run, James?
Rainham.
We're going to Rainham, yeah.
Rainham. Okay. So we will then be doing just the introduction to a scenario, just so you can see the introduction to one of the scenarios, and then we'll be doing an AC section so you can hear that as well. And we have just missed Chatham as well. Bye, Chatham.
Hurry away from Chatham. My next station is my local.
Richard Beister, I think that's how I pronounce it, has talked about sort of why we're highlighting or doing the preview in this kind of conditions, in this kind of weather. We talked about this a little bit at the start, but I don't think we quite realised we were going to hammer it down quite as much as we did because we've got dynamic weather on. But the idea is we wanted to showcase some of this is a showcase for the 700 rather than the route itself. What we wanted to try and do was showcase how the lighting in the cab is working, all of the different onboard equipment that you've got, the headlights, all of those things that perhaps you wouldn't normally see if we were doing this in kind of the daylight. And then of course when we come to doing a couple of bits later on, we'll do it during the daylight too. So you hopefully get the best of both worlds.
A few of you are saying, but AP have got sounds for the DC, and I can't go into the details, but I'm well aware of it. Long discussions were had, and yeah, it wasn't possible, I'm afraid, for reasons that yeah, they're just complex and technical. And Armstrong tried to work with us, and yeah, I can't say any more than that, I'm afraid. But we tried a lot to try and get these DC sounds from a 700.
When we get to Rainham, I think it'd be nice as well to just do a quick walk through the entire length of the train.
Sure.
Because of how open plan it all is.
Yeah, it's one of the cool things with the newer trains, isn't it? The first train I experienced with the open plan on it was the newer at the time, the London Overgrounds, the 378s, and it's trippy being able to see down the whole train as it snakes around corners.
Yeah, it is very odd. Especially at places like Strood, where it's basically an S-bend. See it go one way, then the other. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a walk through the whole unit so we can see the lovely standard class seating that these things have been bestowed with.
I'm so glad we replicated how horrifically uncomfortable those seats are in all of their glory.
See, I feel like I'm one of the only people on the planet that can put up with it.
We missed an opportunity to go when you sit down.
I want to know what people's records are for putting up with a 700. I have done Charlton to Bedford to Rainham and Strood all in one go. I'll see if anyone can beat
and
that.
Everybody else's back is now twitching, just at the mere thought. This is Wonder. Hello. Here's something fun. You see, you can see all the way down.
The subtle curve helps show it off even more. But you can see as well how the seating layout is slightly different between each coach, just because of where all the different equipment is.
Every coach is different. It's a pain. The FLU is I think 2 different extra coaches on top of. So it's 4 more coaches, but I think there's 2 different coaches that need to be modelled.
Ah, there's toilet vestibule as well.
What toilet? I didn't see a toilet.
It's the last thing you want to think about on a train that's going through Medway. Don't even entertain the thought. Yes,
I think a lot of people are affectionately calling the seats ironing boards, which I can completely get behind.
yes, it's a name that caught on, and there we go. Yeah, at least it's not 3+2 seating. The 3+2 seating is crime against humanity. It really is. Well, if we weren't late before, we're definitely late now.
I don't care.
Just everyone on board judging while the driver's running up and down.
I'm showing the people that are watching. So the driver's running up and down with the camera, talking to the viewers on the stream.
Although I have had some weird situations because drivers swap all over the place in these things. So Gillingham is a station where drivers swap, and it can catch you off guard at some point because they'll swap but then go somewhere else. So you can, in real life, I've stopped at Gillingham. We've stopped for a couple of minutes. We leave, and then the driver walks out the cab, and whilst the train's moving, a different driver got on, but you don't necessarily see that. It's a bit freaky. Now we pass the infamous spotting location. Always nice to do some train spotting up on that bridge.
Yep.
Not necessarily whilst it's a thunderstorm, but
Let's say. But it hasn't stopped us before.
Yes, so you have to be quite passionate, I think, to be in this weather.
You and I met up
just-
there one time
yeah.
watching the ROG 37 go through, didn't we?
yeah, I remember that day. I think we saw a steam train go through there as well. Yep, next stop is Rainham.
And it's raining.
It is raining at Rainham.
It's raining at Rainham.
It is doing. Because yeah, up until this point, Rainham Platform Zero's had precisely 0 services because this is the only thing that uses it. But now you'll see something in there quite often. So I think it's about a 10 or 15 minute turnaround here. So you've got plenty of time to shut down one cab, do some silly walks all the way through the train, and set up the other cab and go again.
Collectibles.
Of course. How can I forget?
A couple of people have asked about achievements. And I don't believe we do achievements for loco add-ons now, right, Matt?
Nope, we don't. Haven't done for any of TSW3.
Someone asked, does it have guard panels?
It's got guard panels in the cab, like the buttons are all there, but the 700 is a train that is only operated as a driver only thing. Like it's all done just by the driver, so there is no actual guard that you would have.
And Joe's in the chat. Hello, Joe. Hope you enjoyed
Hello, Joe.
your day. Do a quick horn, Matt, before we get into Rainham.
Alert everybody that we're coming.
Yeah.
Tell them to get out of the way.
Matt's here. We've got 20 other trains behind us, ready to go. HTG's French Transport says it's releasing on my 18th birthday. Well, happy 18th birthday for the 11th. It's my birthday next week too, so.
Oh, it's rapidly approaching mine as well. It's bad news.
Should get some little Thameslink cakes. That'd be fun.
That's getting a bit lighter now, at least.
Just the right surface length to enjoy the sunrise. Completely obscured by cloud,
I
but
was gonna say, what's
sunrise nonetheless. It's about as good as it gets down here.
Aaron's asked, can you confirm the gangways move in curves? I mean, I think did we not see that earlier with the kind of the snaking around? But we can obviously take a look. Obviously, we're on the straight.
We have many curves we're about to do, so going over a double point.
What age are you going to be, JD? Too old. Too old. The age where everything, you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my god, that hurts. There we go. There's a little bend.
Accordion City. Looks good.
Oh, it does look like an accordion, actually.
If only it made the noise. That'd be so. That'd be so fun.
I wouldn't be annoying at all for all the passengers.
Well, especially in Medway. You imagine people getting on 11 o'clock at night, or 5 o'clock in the morning when they're hungover, and that's the noise that the train makes.
Oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. Or maybe bagpipes.
And the weather's cleared just in time. Look at that.
Oh. So happy that when we've come to the end of the service, it's starting to get nice.
Well, it's typical, isn't it? The second you walk inside, it stops raining. It's always the way.
Lovely. So, we are at Rainham. Only a matter of 5 minutes late. Fine.
It's fine.
It's but
So, I read something in the chat. Ironically, the only place where it hasn't been raining on the route so far is in Rainham. But there we go.
It is actually raining, it's just
okay.
lighter.
Should we get into some scenario action?
Yeah.
Do it. So scenario was what was the name of the scenario? It was because they're all
Shattered,
named
wasn't it?
zeros. Zero City Shattered.
here we go.
Dun dun dun. This is one of 7 scenarios that comes with the 700. Do you want to narrate, James?
I mean, I can't read the text; it's too small for me. But 700s are doing things, and one broke, so you need to get it out of the way. And the way that you do that is by coupling 2 together right here. So you've got a 16-car Class 700, and it's happened before. I think it's mental to see, but there we go. It's good fun. And it's something a bit different, and it also means you get to uncouple them a bit later on as well.
Nice. I think when we were talking earlier, we were talking about the roadmap stream and things like that, about sort of and things like Peak Forest and Glossop Line as well. We want to try and unshackle things like the gameplay team to be able to do some interesting and fun things with scenarios, particularly because they're kind of our playground to be able to do some interesting new stuff. So we've got 7. They've got 7 slightly different things for you to try and enjoy. So we hope you like them.
Yeah, because whilst the timetable is your pretty run-of-the-mill working timetable, trains just going between Dartford and Rainham, then continuing on their way off the route, so often does the timetable get messed around with. And then I think that's what the scenarios are trying to portray, is the sort of times when you do get to a station, you think, where's all the 700s gone? One's delayed, one's skipped a stop, one's turned back somewhere short. It happens all the time. Literally yesterday, a rail broke at Gravesend, and the 700s had to crawl through it at 5 miles an hour. So much happens because it's such a condensed little bit of network. So yeah, what can go wrong? That's basically what represented in scenarios.
What can go wrong will go wrong.
Yes.
DP TSWS and AWS operational.
And there's different types of failures as well that trains can go through. So in this, you're just dragging the class 700, and that's as it is, as you would just dragging. But if you want to put a bit of role playing into it, as I think is always fun to do with scenarios, sometimes you need to drag a train where its brakes have failed. And as per the rule book, if you're dragging a train and the brakes don't work, your maximum speed is 5 miles an hour.
You really are.
That doesn't sound fun.
So yeah, I challenge anyone to drive this service without exceeding 5 miles an hour and just see how long it takes.
How long does it take?
And then long enough.
You've done it, haven't you?
Love to see somebody try that.
I pity the poor driver that did it in real life. They had to drive from London Bridge to Three Bridges Depot at 5 miles an hour. It took all night.
Oh my word. Yeah, I'd love to see that. If anybody would love to do a time lapse of them doing that, then I can't promise you give you a reward or anything like that, but you can rest assured that you will get the love and the gratitude of the whole Dovetail Games team.
And if you want to have a little bit of fun with 16 car formations, one of the scenario planner formations is 16 cars long.
Ooh.
So that's good fun.
Right, so we wanted to just show the elongated 16 car. Do we want to go and do some AC action now? Should we go and do some AC action?
I'll do a
Players
run
bit-
by of this and then we'll move on.
Okay, sure.
If only it was a mile long. That'd be good fun. I'm sure someone will try and put loads down on Training Centre and see how long they can make it. Someone being me. Well, because the interesting thing is, the Training Centre is obviously based on the Wildenrath training test circuit in Germany, which is where the 700 was tested for the first time. So it's quite nice to run it around on there. Plus, it's also a good place you can run with both DC and AC, because Training Centre has both.
Yeah, again, a good point.
There may be a chink in the plan where we put this on Birmingham.
Oh,
Did you not install Birmingham?
Didn't install Birmingham.
Right, drop it at
Oh,
Ashford International, and then we get the fun of teaching you how to turn it into AC mode as well.
Excellent. Right, let's do that.
Because when I tested it, it defaults you to DC mode, which is good until the second you leave Ashford.
What platform should I be on?
5 or 6 will be fine.
One job, Matt. That's the lie. You had many jobs.
I was like, many
but-
jobs. You're talking about one job.
Oh, we should have. Oh, we missed a trick, James. What we should have done is we should have had that 5 mile an hour thing as an achievement, or like a just put everyone through all of that pain.
Have it as a like April Fool's thing, so all you see is as the speed limit is 5 miles an hour.
Let's do this.
So, key on,
That's not what I want to do.
and then we should see that the pantograph is currently down, I think. Because it's in auto at the moment, and because there's both, it
TSWS and
picks
AWS
DC.
operational.
So if you just want to pop outside and verify that's correct, I think the pantograph should be down at the moment. It is down. So yeah, it's currently collecting from DC, which of course is fantastic until we leave Ashford and join High Speed 1 in this case, and then it all goes a bit wrong very quickly. So, trains in neutral, and on the right-hand side we have got 2 switches. We have got mode and power supply. First things first, power supply goes to off. And it will flash. When it stops flashing, the power has turned off. So we've got to wait for it to turn off. Eagerly anticipating.
I want
Oh,
to.
there we go. It's lit up. That's what I mean. It's lit up. Now that it's lit up, you can use the mode switch and switch over to AC. that will flash and will be illuminated, and then you put the power supply back on, it will flash, and then when both lights go out, you're in AC mode.
Is this in the manual, James?
It is in the manual.
Cool. I will chuck that in the chat just so that people can see it.
There we go. Pantograph is up. It will now draw from the AC. There we go. Yeah, so these AC sounds are the sounds from Armstrong Powerhouse. And it's a bit hard to notice in this instance with junctions everywhere, but it does have a much quicker pickup, much like the 395 when you put that into high speed 1.
The MOS power button acts as the circuit breaker.
I would say probably in layman's terms, yes. It's the equivalent of opening and closing the main circuit breaker. It does the same job effectively. I'm no technical expert. I am wondering why we're on the wrong track. That's interesting.
It's just the expert who set the scenario up.
Can we look at the Panto quickly before we go?
Into the darkness. Oh.
There we go. Oh, the lights are on though, that's good. Camera. I think we left the passengers behind as well.
We did.
It's probably for the best, let's be fair.
They're probably better off waiting for the next train.
Yeah. Well, it also does show off a nice little thing that I like about when you do something on Snowplow with high speed 1, you notice all the signals are yellow on the HUD, and whenever you go past one of the TVM boards, it's got a flashing light on it. That's because it knows you're not a train with TVM, so you're technically limited. It's quite a while
Unless
to the
you're
next
me,
board, but
and I refuse to be
see that.
limited.
Folks, we just want to show you the AC. Don't worry too much about the fact that we've left all the passengers. We're not following strict rules and things like that. We just wanted to show you what the AC is all about. Can we make it to 100 miles an hour, Matt? Let's put that as our challenge.
When we get to one of the downhill bits, I'm sure. There we go. Here we go. 2.3% downhill.
Come on, come on. 83. It's like Back to the Future. 90. Oh no, we're hitting an incline. Oh no.
He'll get there. He'll get there.
We're going up the hill. 99. Yeah.
There we go.
100 mph. Thank you very much. So you can have a bit of fun. You can go and take it out, do some other bits and pieces. As you can say, it's got AC functionality, so you can jump in and pretty much put it on most lines of the game and run to your heart's content. Liam said, "I'd love to try this on LGV." Well, you can do.
What's interesting as well, where it's newer and much more powerful, it can make it up the gradients where the 395 can't. Do you not have the headlights on? I just saw a glimpse of a headlightless 700.
It looks like it's not got a soul without the headlights, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's also a nice little detail you can see on the front and back. It's a tiny little thing, but above the top marker light, So on this end, the surround of it is black. But on the other end, we're now in the tunnel, fantastic. In the other end, it's white. And that tells staff which way round the train is, because it determines which end of the train is the front.
Yeah, because I guess you've got the same front and back, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, so with the accessible area, for example, if it's in one direction, it's in coach 4. If it's in the other direction, it's in coach 5. So if you need a ramp, you know where to put it.
Yes. And if anybody wants to know how to kind of the process that we've taken to get to this point, then you can either just rewatch this part of the live stream, or I've just chucked the manual into the chat as well. So if anybody, there is a manual that comes with the 700, which has all the details on how to do this. Lisa does ask, where can we download the 700 manual? I think I've just put it in the chat, so hopefully you can find it.
Round of applause, everyone. We're now on the correct track.
Yeah!
Woo!
Oh, please, it's just like watching Colonel play it. Yes, I would agree with that. This is very Colonel playing it, isn't it? Cool, okay. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about in relation to the 700, James? Is there any other anecdotal stuff or any other fun stuff that you think we haven't talked about just yet?
Oh, I don't know. It's I mean, because for me, it's such a personal thing. I could sit here and tell you about the difference in every single seat and how they feel. We'd be here for hours. I just love the thing. It's great. I'm going to flick through the manual very quickly myself. Even though I've written it, I can't remember half of what's in it because I'm tired. But let's have a look to see if there's anything worth mentioning in there.
Yeah, I don't need to be in the chair. We've got ages till we get to St Pancras. What I wanted to do was to see if we could get to a bit to where you could see the train doing its thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because with the curve, if you go over a steep gradient, not only will you see it do left and right, it'll curve up and down as well. I think my best advice can be just get clicking around in the cab and see what happens.
There's lots of functionalities, and there's lots of fun, interesting little things that you can have a play around with. Emergency brake test, somebody suggested 100 miles an hour.
There are I think there's 3 different types of emergency brake reset procedures. They are in the manual. Again, much like the modern train that it is, you have to tap on something on the screen in front of you to release the brakes if you're triggered by AWS. And that is one thing, actually, I suppose. Most trains, AWS will trigger the brakes in about 4 or 5 seconds. In the 700, it'll do it in just under 3 seconds. So you've got to be on the ball. I could only guess as to why that is. If I had to guess, it would be because the signal blocks in a lot of Thameslink network is so short. If you waited 5 seconds, you'd go through the signal. But it is only about 3 seconds. So be quick or be stopped is the best way to put it.
There we go. We are stopped. Okay, James, walk it through with Matt. One of the 3.
How did you just brake? Did you use the plunger?
Yeah.
If you use the plunger, it should be a very simple case of return the power brake handle to a normal braking position.
Yep, it's going.
Oh, it's going already. There we go. Yeah, so return it to a normal braking position, shows as full service. Reset the plunger. Reapply power. If vigilance catches you out, cancel it. Return the power handle to off and then back on again. You don't need to wait for the train to stop after a vigilance break. And as I say, with AWS, the screen will start moaning at you, and you've got to stop and wait for the BR button to turn up on the screen. Press that, the brakes will release, off you go. It's all in the manual.
There is a tutorial for this as well, Matt, isn't there?
There's a tutorial for 700 in the on training centre, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. I'm just think if there's any questions that we got asked that I don't think we've answered yet. Railfan97 asked, this is from the forum thread, does the timetable include any the late night services that only run between Rainham and Dartford and stabling the train overnight at the old Rochester station?
So there are some like very late night services. How they're set up, I can't quite remember. I know that in some timetables we've now got timetables that run over 24 hours. That feature came in after we made the base southeastern timetable, so stuff will stop before midnight. But there are some services at the start of the day just after midnight which do involve using Rochester downsiding, and there is two services I think that start from the Rochester sidings in the morning, so you get to run empty down to Rainham and then take a service back to Dartford.
I just recovered from vigilance, no trouble.
Excellent. You might struggle with AWS where we are, but
It's not really a good route for AWS, is it? Or a good
no,
stretch of
the
route.
next AWS ramp is at the entrance to St Pancras, so keep going, we'll get there eventually.
Any questions? Chat.
Someone asking if we can see the AI 700s at King's Cross. We could try, but I can't remember the timings where they show up, so we could be sat there for a while. If you're wondering where that is, so where High Speed 1 exits the tunnel and curves into St Pancras, as it exits the tunnel it travels over the top of the East Coast Main Line out of King's Cross and the canal tunnels that head under St Pancras, and we've put the 700 in that location. I think it's 4 or 5 trains an hour in each direction.
The Pancras.
So you might need to do some on-foot shenanigans, or step into a 395 and use the free cam.
James Bills has asked, are there any 8-coach services? I believe they're all 8-coach, aren't
They're
they?
all 8 coaches.
Yeah, it's a fixed 8-car train. You can't divide it, and even though it comes with 16-car opportunities, you would never run it like that in service. There's probably only about 3 platforms in the country that are long enough for such a train. So yeah, it's all 8 coaches in terms of actual passengers.
There was a 16 coach sort of scenario we showed you a little bit earlier, but I think that's the only one that isn't an 8-coacher in the adult.
Yeah. So yeah, so flying along to the tunnel entrance, and yeah, underneath it. So this is where the 700 will appear at the timings that it does throughout the day. So I can't exactly remember when it is when they do show up, but I have seen it. So if you get lucky, you will see a 700 passing at the same time as you fly in off High Speed 1, or indeed as you're just leaving St Pancras. Joe says one is due, so maybe we can stick around. After all, he's the one who put the timings in.
I was going to say, if anyone's going to know, it's going to be Joe, isn't it? So
Yeah.
1:30 apparently. Oh, it's gone 1:30.
The joys of train spotting, sitting around waiting. It's the way it always is.
I'm just enjoying the fact that we've got 670 odd people also watching at the same time as us.
It's enthralling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Relentless Phoenix asked a question about the formations. If the 8 and the 12 car exists, are we able to customise them both and use both in scenarios? I think we've kind of half answered this already, James, but you were talking about the different consists available in Scenario Planner.
Yes, there's 8 and 16, not 8 and 12. So 16 is 2 8 cars together. 12 is a different subclass of the 700 that isn't included, as that would need different coaches.
Slightly different cab, and some different coaches in it as well.
Yeah.
Three bridges to Cambridge any minute, apparently.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Joe could be the ultimate troll right now, just throwing random locations and random timings at us. Where it is mercy.
There's a green light up here. don't get a green light if there's no train. Well, generally, there he goes.
Well, we hope anyway. This is where it's some curveball and it's a train that goes up onto the curve and onto the North London line, because that does happen as well.
Another one coming this way as well. Yeah, it's one in. Oh no, see that's. Yeah, one in each direction even.
Oh, there we go.
Hello. Money shot.
It's quite funny. Nice little anecdotal thing, which I find amusing. Obviously, with the first time that this track is laid, you don't necessarily think anything's going to be on it, so it's just sort of left as it was. The first time Joe put a 700 on here, it ran by default at 90 miles an hour, which was quite funny to see. But we adjusted that to be a more appropriate 30 miles an hour. But as you can see, the pantographs are up. Joe, did you put the destinations in for these as well? I can't actually see. Yep, it says Cambridge on it. There we go. So if you want to sit around and watch trains coming and going, if that's your thing, what a place to do it.
That's very cool.
Right, well, on a double 700 note, shall we finish up for this evening, folks? Hey, oh, we're going back to Facecam. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared for that, Matt. You could have given me a bit of warning. Thanks for that. Good job. I'm still here and I'm not in the back of my shot. I've got my two cats here actually, so I will see if they want to come over and say hi. But thanks very much for watching. Of course, it is coming to you the 700 on July the 11th, so that's next Tuesday. Consoles will be available from about 10 a.m. UK time and from about 4 to 6 p.m. on Steam and Epic. We hope you've enjoyed this stream. We hope you've enjoyed the insight that James has been able to bring to the table that myself and Matt could only hope to bring you. I'm really excited for this one, really excited to see what you think of it. As I say, this one is the one that I recognise the most. This is my local train, so I'm looking forward to seeing how you all enjoy it too. Matt, any final words before we leave it for this evening?
No, I think I just want to say a big thank you to James. There's been some really great insights, and I've learned a couple of things just in little anecdotes, and it's a good fun train to drive. It's like I say, it's quite responsive. So if you are less sure of the driving experience or less sure of your driving abilities, this is a really good one to start with. It's very easy to drive, lots to see. So yeah, really great fun.
James, I don't need to tell you, I didn't need to ask you if you're excited for it because I think we know the answers to that already. But what are your kind of thoughts on the fact that it's only a few days away now? Because I know that this has been a kind of project that's been really close to your heart over the course of the last few months.
I'm just thrilled. I cannot wait to get it on my PC and just sit down for a few hours and just drive the 700s till my PC is screaming, "Please no more." It's gonna be brilliant.
I hope you're driving at 5 miles an hour, James. That's all I can say.
Of course.
We don't see the 24-hour, 5 mile an hour video.
Yeah. We've all got to try and hold up the timetable much more than Matt did.
Yeah. If there's not at least 7 trains behind you, I don't want to know. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you once again, James, for joining us. Rainfanning TV debut. I think you've done a sterling job. Hope to have you on more streams in the future. I'd love the chat to give a little round of applause to James as well, because as I say, he's given up his evening to kind of help us out tonight. So thank you very much, James. Just a couple final notes. It is the Steam Summer Sale at the moment, so if there's loads and loads of great deals on. If you know friends that are interested in getting into the world of Train Sim World, it's a really good time to do so. There's also a Humble Bundle as well, where there's a portion of the proceeds for some really it's an amazing deal. It's like 15 pieces of content for like 10 quid or something. It's a really good way to get into the game, and you give a little bit of money to charity in the process too. So those are a couple of areas to take advantage of, and also also, as I say, this is coming next Tuesday. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. We hope we've been able to showcase as much as we possibly could, and we look forward to seeing what you say, what you say on Tuesday. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely evening, and we will be back next week. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Farewell.